Great, welcome back to Foiling Week 2020 and the Gurit Forum. It's been a really busy day from all parts of the world on this live forum. So I hope you're watching. I hope you're sharing. If you're not sharing, go on Andrew's watch party on Facebook and on YouTube. Right now we have, as usual, Bruno Gentoli from Lago de Garda, my guest, Andrew Pindar, and I am Chris Museler reporting here from Rhode Island. Today, this last forum of the day, and we'll talk at the end of this about what's coming up tomorrow on Saturday, but we're going to be talking about building hydrofoils, which is kind of like the core of Foiling Week. And we have Mark Somerville, who is the managing director of Persco Marine. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. Welcome. Are you based in Italy? Along with
based in Italy in Bergamo, about 40 minutes north of Milan.
Cool. So we'll give you an opportunity to talk about the company. And one thing that I've been just noodling around in my head, I think Luca said something around 16 Amoca foils that you guys have done in the last year or two, some period of time.
Yeah, I think, it's probably at least 16, I'd say.
And those are just
60 foils in the last 2 years.
Cool. That's a lot. So when I just share that that hydrofoils are just our like reason for being, if there's a solar plexus or an epicenter of what Foiling Week is all about, it's usually the shops where hydrofoils are built. And I think if there's one person that you had to pick just to discuss building hydrofoils, it would have to be you. I think you and the company might have the most experience on building high performance sailing hydrofoils. So yeah, we've got a lot of questions for you. I want to kick this off by just, Andrew, just hearing that alone. I mean, 60 hydrofoils and 16 Amoca foils and the leading edge of hydrofoil performance sailing and water sports design. I mean, is there a more important kind of part of our universe than people who build them?
Well, yeah, I guess if you wanted to win a yacht race, and if in this day and age your yacht's going to go quicker because it's got a foil on it, you want to go to the people who know how to build them, because what you don't want to do, especially at the cost of these damn things, is that if you go and experiment, and those of us who have boats built in the past and so on, when you're at that experimentation stage, unless you've got some fancy budget behind you, you really need to get it right the first time, I think. Right. So, I think that security would, if it were me buying, I'd want to go with that comfort.
Well, Mark, tell us a little bit about the history of Persco and Foils. Maybe how long have you been with the company?
Personally, I've been with the company for just over 10 years now. Okay. I came here straight after the America's Cup with the dog race with Oracle Racing, where I was with them, and came to Persco to help launch the company into the yacht racing market, manufacturing race boats, which was my forte, or where I've come from, and pretty soon after actually being here and being involved in some of the early Volvo 70s, we got involved with Luna Rossa, with the AC, with the bigger cat, and then started building foils. Foils, we all remember, it seems like a long time ago now, but it's not that long ago. Started putting foils on SL33s and smaller boats, and that's kind of where it started. You moved from there to everyone started putting the AC45s on foils, so we started building those, and then the AC50 came along, and we just slowly built from there. So we've kind of been trying to pioneer from the start with foils.
Looking at the AC45, those first version of those lifting foils, those hydrofoils, and looking at the foils that you're producing now, and you've produced for cup type boats and Amoca boats. I mean, if you look at the two of them side to side, what's the glaring difference between the two right now, whether it be the construction or some design elements or both?
Yeah, I think it's like any composite part. That's kind of, as a boat builder, how I look at things. They're just composite parts, and then at the end you put them all together and you get a yacht or you get something else,
Right.
And I think they evolve over time. So they slowly, in different areas evolve more than others, but they just become more and more refined, and so you can see the hydro shapes getting better and better and better. The only difference really, I think, that I've seen in the last few years is because of the, computational development and speed and programs that everyone's using today. Everything's evolving a lot faster in the last 10 years than it was in the previous, decades before that.
Right. And going through that trajectory from 10 years ago to now, the space where people are building hydrofoils, are there a lot of people doing that now, like larger hydrofoils, or is it still like just 3 or 4 companies or little,
Yeah, I think it's only a few of us, to be fair. But I think, in the America's Cup game or any, high-end racing yachts, there's not a lot of people doing it anyway. And then specifically when you get to parts like that, which, ideally you're actually hanging the boat off it, there's a lot of risk involved, like Andrew says. Everything must be built right. Your campaign is at risk also. There's not a lot of people doing it. There's very few of us doing it. And to be honest, these things are very, very difficult to manufacture. They really are. They're not like a lot of the other parts. They're completely different. So if we look at the automotive industry manufacturing composite parts, a lot of the automotive industry are manufacturing monolithic parts, and they're quite thin as well, And then if you look at the boats historically over the last, 20, 30 years, they're made with cord structure. So you have a very thin skin of 1 to 2 millimeters, and then a core in the middle, which can be honeycomb or foams and, different materials. And then another skin on the inside, very much like the boat that you've showed here, the America's Cup hulls. They're all sandwich construction with honeycomb. But the boards themselves, some of the boards these days, they're well over 100 millimeters of solid carbon.
Because they have to be, right?
Yeah, they have to be. The loading and the forces on them, they just drive them in that direction. But that's a very different structure to the hull themselves, and it's a very different structure to many other parts commonly known in a lot of industries today. And just building up over 100 millimeters of solid carbon is very difficult. It sounds kind of easy. You just lay up one layer at a time, but it's a very difficult process. And even for us, we have a lot of risk and there's a lot of liability. 100 millimeters of carbon over that length and that volume, and it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, and if it fails, it costs even more money, and it can be dangerous.
That's right. It costs. Yeah, that's right. And so even the manufacturing methods over, you go back to the early, we talked about the AC45s. We built for more than one team during those phases and those early developments. And I remember actually saying back then, we just built a foil for this team. And when you put it on the boat, it looks exactly the same or very similar to most people as the foil that we put on the other boat. So the volumes and the shapes were all pretty similar. The lengths were similar. The cord length was more or less the same. But because of the design and engineering, that forced the build methods to be different. And in actual fact, one board for one team cost twice as much as the board going on the other team.
Right.
And that was pretty interesting, So it forms, a bit of a challenge to, how these things should be made, could be made. And as a manufacturer, that's where we get really involved at a very early stage these days compared to what it was before. And we play a very big part in how things should actually be manufactured and therefore engineered and designed.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm noodling around in my head this idea that, like, who drives the product, right? Like, can can they come up with a design because you let them know what you're capable of, or can you let them know what you're capable of because someone gives you a new material, or all those things coming around? But it seems to me that you're more, like you said, you're more involved as a manufacturer now from ground up, from designing and building foils.
Yeah, and that's something it's been a bit of a challenge actually for us over the years, because we do actually manufacture things here a little different to most. We've been pushing forward and pioneering different manufacturing methods, but also in doing that, forced us and through different choices, it means we've had to purchase different equipment. We're focusing quite a lot on automation and that type of thing, which is very different to the old school of, the boat builder, 5 guys, 10 guys, and you just have a shed with a saw in the corner and you get a bunch of material and you put it together. So that's kind of where we were, sort of 20 years ago. And then today with, automating systems and processes and things, that drives us down a corner, which is good in some ways, but we have to communicate that really, really well to the designers and the engineers. So in other words, this is Persco Marine, this is how we do it, these are the processes that we have, this is machines that we use, and so forth. So that steers a lot of not necessarily the foil shapes, but definitely how they're engineered.
Cool. I wanted to throw a question out because I just know their brains work in this direction, to Bruno and Andrew. How come, God, it's so exciting talking to someone like Mark, and when he just lays out this kind of progression of how this manufacturing has changed over the years and how it's modernized and how they interact. How come, is it just not sexy in the world of sailing media to follow the builders, the people who are putting these things together, and their interaction with the design teams? Why do we only see the designers and we almost never see the builders? There's as strong of a role as ever now.
Yeah, I have a view that, of course, with the print media having gone into almost terminal decline, that we're
thanks.
Like as in much of the rest of the media, we're into sound bites. So people are more interested in what's happened to somebody who's had an accident or somebody who's been caught doing something wrong than they are about the hard work that goes into process behind these things. And it's almost as though it becomes a given. And I think that's why a forum like Foiling Week is really excellent, to be able to allow people, and looking at all the young engineers that here yesterday in the Sumoth Challenge, and a lot of the sailors who are here, who are themselves the young engineers. I think it's fantastic, because now must be the moment in the potential careers of people for young engineers to be looking to see how they can find solutions to problems, which you can then take using modern manufacturing techniques and going around Persco. I had the pleasure of going around Persco last October, and I'm no engineer, but what a fantastic place. We need to be doing Persico tours or other boatyard tours and taking people through.
I'll charge you next time then. There we go.
Well, you even bought me lunch, Mark.
Bring friends.
But that to me is where it's at. It's that this science and the hard work fortunately it goes around within a group, and there'll be people who've got their own WhatsApp groups and everything else. But it probably is the time when we need to be elevating the importance of the engineering and the building that goes on behind how we end up with an amazing thing like that Prada craft. And listening to Dan Bernasconi earlier on today, again, to hear the invention and the science and the computational powers that go into then asking somebody like Mark to build something that's going to allow that boat to go and do what I think is impossible.
Yeah. Now let's get into the details. Let's get into the weeds for a second, if we don't mind to get technical, because we are Foiling Week. I have two kind of areas that I want to ask Mark. One of them is, well, I'll tell you a little story really quick. And I think I may have sent this to you, I don't know. But Olin Stevens, who started Sparkman and Stevens years ago in 1930, 31, 29, whenever that was, there were a couple times, and often he would do this, where there would be a design detail where a chain plate design and how the chain plate attaches to the inner side of the hull, how those loads are distributed, what materials are used for that. Occasionally, he would leave that out of a design because he knew that the boat builders, in this case at the Nevins yard in City Island, knew how to handle that best, you know, because of their experience. It seems to me that things have come around full circle in the world of yacht design, engineering, construction, you know, with that concept. But you guys just do your planning out really early together. Mark, what are some things that you guys over the recent years have kind of either innovative or little tricks to do things or to construct things that you've kind of, you know, influenced the designers and engineers?
Yeah, I think that's still fair today, actually. Depending on the boat, actually, and the product and what you're actually making. You know, on America's Cup boat that we're looking at there on the screen, they're quite different animals, you know. And to me, I don't even think it's a boat anymore. I think it's an aircraft.
Right.
And you know, the design techniques and especially the manufacturing processes and techniques that we are using today, it's more about building an aeroplane. And every single detail, it doesn't matter where you look on that boat, everything's been, you know, designed and redesigned and evolved, and it's made to be more efficient, and aerodynamics and hydrodynamics and even down to the, you know, layer by layer detailing that goes into the engineering. Everything is done, you know, with computational power done on a computer today. And so with that, we have to come in with ideas much earlier if we have them, because otherwise it's, you know, it's too late by the time it comes to us. So we do get involved very early on. We do get involved with sketching and things like that of, you know, what about we do this and how about we do that and this would be better. Sometimes we get designs which you can't even build. It's too difficult, too complex, or drives you down a road where it just has too much risk right at the end, because we have laying up different processes, and if you leave everything right to the end, you get too much risk. So we do get involved early on, and then which is exactly what you're talking about before.
Right.
With a standard sort of yacht, you know, a normal yacht that actually has a keel on the bottom, there is still some designers which leave details open for us, for sure.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And my second detail question, and we can move into more broader discussion, was I remember when Fast Forward Composites was doing some, I visited their factory a while ago, and they were doing some cup foils, and they were laying, what's that called when you lay in kind of fiber optics into the boards. And that's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And now I know for a fact that in IMOCA, that's really important too, because it's, I guess that's for load sensors and then attached to alarms. So can you give me an example for the America's Cup and for IMOCA class, what that technology, you know, the real technology for sensors looks like in a hydrofoil now?
Yeah, I think this came about, even for us, you know, like 10 years ago or so, that you'd put some fiber optics in certain parts and products. So you would obviously, you could plug it in and understand the load and get an alarm and basically, you know, restrict the sailor from pushing it too hard so you won't break it, which is always good. Yep. And then on the other side of that, you actually want to get the data back, so it allows you to understand you know, what forces are going through different parts of that product. So when you actually develop and design the next one, you can refine it and make it, you know, more efficient and optimize it for weight. And this for us is just actually common now. You know, every foil that goes on any boat that's flying needs to have the fiber optics, otherwise you're kind of sailing blind, you know.
Yeah.
It'll be like sailing a yacht, you know, standard yacht without any wind indication or anything like that. You know, of course you can do it, but you're not going to push so hard. So it's the same with the rigging. You know, there's load pins on the rigging and fibre optics and foils and rudders and things like that.
Yeah.
Common.
That's wild. Andrew, Bruno, and Bruno
Yeah,
particularly, you know, we've talked to you about this stuff. That's wild.
I'm just sitting here looking at that picture of that Prada boat. And Mark, I think I'm right in saying that you built the keel arms for the foil arms for all the 4 American boats this time around. Is that right?
Yeah, we've built 18 of those things in total today, and obviously provided everybody with a couple of sets. Yep.
And just talk us through, if you wouldn't mind, what happened when you had to test that to destruction, I guess. What happened in that process? Because by the time it broke, I should think it went off with a bit of a noise.
Yeah, it was a big day, Andrew. It was a big day, I can tell you that. So that sort of, it was kind of like the process I was telling you about, what not to do. You know, you don't really want to put something right at the end to understand whether it's going to work or not. But anyway, that day, everybody that was involved in designing, engineering, manufacturing, processing, you name it, everything came down to that point of time on that particular day where we all got tested, you know, and so, you know, after many, many months of designing and manufacturing, we built the first foil arm that you see on the screen here, and we put it on a load testing bench here at Persco, which we use generally we use it for evaluating all the foils, and we, you know, with the Amokas, the AC boats, all the foils we normally put on the test bed, and we bring it up to the maximum load capacity that you'd normally have when sailing, just to evaluate that it's going to be okay structurally, and at the same time we calibrate the fibre optics, so it all sort of works. But this day we put the foil arm on there. We went to max load and everything looked good, and basically we just continued over a few hours to keep cycling up and down until we heard a big bang. And
were you behind a wall at least?
Well, it's funny you say that, Chris, because in the morning we had to do this twice actually. So the first time we built one and tested it, didn't quite reach the loads that everybody expected, so we went again and we built another foil arm. And on this day, I remembered very clearly what we did on the first day. So I mentioned to everybody, listen, how about we all move out of the room where the test bed is, and we go around the corner and shut the door. So we actually moved everybody outside. We moved all the equipment and all the screens. We had at least 15 technicians, everyone standing around monitoring and recording all the data all over the foil. And we were actually standing probably 20 meters away from the foil itself. We had video cameras. It was all exactly the same. And when the bang went, it sounded like a cannon went off right next to your head, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was a very, very big bang.
Oh, man. Yeah, what's the cleanup after that one?
Well, there was a few parts to put on the floor, that's for sure. And it was a good move going outside, because I was picking up some of the titanium pieces that were flying off, and they were in the middle of the room. So I was pretty happy with that call.
Whilst I've got the floor and asking you questions, if you don't mind, Mark, the guys who were at Volvo, Nick Bice and Jordan Spencer and Coxey and so on, were all very excited about the superfoiler that you were going to build. Can you share with us what your opinion would be had that boat really come into full fruition? And do you think one day it might?
I think if you're on the internet there, Chris, you could bring up the Thomas Royant IMOCA 60 boat. Would be pretty nice to show on the screen.
Can you find that? Thomas Royant, right?
Yeah, Thomas Royant, yeah. So this, if you can show this boat, this is pretty cool. So to answer your question, Andrew, that super foiler, what we're going to call the Super 60 back then, yeah, that was a pretty nice boat developed, you know, with Nick Bice and Coxey, and in conjunction with with Persco, Verdier and his team. And something that never really came off, but it evolved into this boat, and it evolved for us into building this IMOCA boat for Thomas Royant. And now it's, Thomas's IMOCA boat is IMOCA 60. We've been very fortunate enough to build the whole boat and be involved from the beginning, develop it with him, support him, Thomas and Marcus Hutchinson, who's been driving as a project manager.
Yeah, Marcus.
Built a couple of sets of foils for the boat. And, he's been doing extremely well for a young guy. The boat's extremely fast, and I think everyone's very happy. And I think everyone should keep an eye on this boat. I think he's going to do extremely well.
Yeah, they had their speed trials, was it last week or so?
Yeah.
And I think they did really well.
If you have a look at the foils on those things, they're just enormous today. Going back 4 years ago when we built the No Way Back, as it was called in the race, and the foils on those boats compared to the foils today, and you have a look at them, they're completely different.
Yeah. That's a great lead in. The last forum discussion is on Sunday morning, and that's with Juan K, Guillaume Verdier, and Antoine Mermot.
Yes.
So
that's good.
Yeah, it'll be good. Go ahead.
I'm guessing then, sorry to walk across you there, Chris.
No worries.
But I'm just getting excited whilst we've got Mark on the line. So many questions. But were you guys involved with these new 11th hour foils? Was that yours or somebody else's?
Yeah, that was ours. Yeah. We've over the last year or so, we built the foils for Prismium, Archaea, 11th Hour, Hugo Boss, and Thomas Royant. We've been quite busy, and more than one set for many of them. So quite a few foils and quite different foils as well. This what we see here is one type, and if you look at the Hugo Boss and Archaea is a different type, and no one's really. Like 10 years after building the America's Cup boats, they're all the same, like the version 5 boats. Everyone's quite similar, but to me, I think as we can see in the IMOCA class, everyone's still got different ideas and concepts, which is really exciting and cool.
Yeah, it is, but also it's nice for the forum because, of course, with the foiling week, given that 11th hour were kind supporters of the Sumoth Challenge yesterday, so. We keep on coming back to 11th hour a little bit at the minute, and what they're driving for in ocean sustainability. So it's good to see that there's some recycling of the funding, if nothing else, coming back to Persco on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been really great to work with 11th hour, even from the beginning of this campaign and even in previous campaigns involved with the. They were involved with BAR Racing, which we built, built a lot of parts, all the wing masts and all the foils for BAR last time. Great team.
And do you think that this is a $1 million question or a $6 million question or something like that? When Anton Mermot comes on, he might be announcing to the world at Foiling Week that they're going to put some elevators on the rudders of these damn things?
I have an idea where they're going to go with that, but I'm not sure they're going to go with elevators, to be honest. I'll see what he says.
Because the Super 60 would have had them, would it?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess that answers my question about the rudder elevators, meaning regardless of what IMOCA says, can a company like Persco pull off making it work?
Yeah, I think, we've done it already. We've been, we also support some of the Ultim boats. So like with Saudi, we did their aft beam and we built their foils, and we actually built some rudders for some of the other teams with the elevators. So the system's there today, it works. It's just, which class accepts it and, which doesn't and why they don't, Like one of the big questions with the IMOCA class is if you put elevators on the rudders, how does it affect the older boats, and how does it affect, racing around the world, and you have maybe more than a month between the first boat and the last boat? How does that work out? And So I think with this day and age, you can evolve quite quickly, but you need to look after some of the teams and some of the people that don't have the big sponsors and the big money to just keep following and driving the development. Although it's very nice to have, and I think it's it's nice to be involved in. We need to keep doing that, but we have to like the children as well that are coming through. You've got to bring them through slowly. You need to walk before you can run. And it's in the Amoka class, as we know, it's a fantastic class, and we want it to keep going for many a time. But there's, I don't know, you probably know more than me, Andrew, but more than 30 boats in that class. So if you put a few of them, out there with elevators on rudders and everything that are going 3 times faster than the rest of them, maybe it's not so good on the boys at the back,
Right.
Yeah. Well, from a sponsor's point of view, then I think the guy who came last in the last one day, a fellow Kiwi of yours, now a French Kiwi, he got a huge amount of the huge return for not much money onto his campaign. But I was going to go on to say that you must be pleased. I think anybody to answer that question about IMOCAs and the advancement. Sam Davis has been doing really, really well in her Innovation Curve boat of late, and that's not the current generation boat at all, as it's been retrofitted.
That's right. No, she has done well, and she's not the only one. There's a couple of them in there that have done really well with older boats. So I think if you're good and you're smart and you're careful where you put your money and that type of thing, you can do well for sure.
Yeah. That brings up another point, though, in terms of the end user and the end experience, which is that, and we talked about this with Guillaume and Juan K, that when I spoke with Sam about this year's campaign, we talked about the fact that there are very few opportunities this year to race test new boats and new equipment, new designs. And there's a difference between going out and training and between just ripping out and back in the ocean and going and racing to the Arctic and back against a whole bunch of boats under a lot more pressure. And Sam was saying that the things that she was changing this year were very small, not big structural changes, not wing designs, none of those things. And so she knew her equipment, she knew the reliability of it, she knew how to push it really well. So she's, in a year where the new designs haven't gotten as much trialing as she has with her retrofitted foils, there's another element there. You actually need some.
Surely, I mean, there must be a tortoise and hare scenario within that whole Amoka fleet, and I don't know much longer we're going for, Chris, but just thinking a question for Mark about the ocean race, and just wondering whether he thinks that the build reliability of these latest foiling open 60s is going to be to stand having 5 people racing them hard around the world. Do you think they're up to it, or are they going to break apart and the tortoises of the old Volvo 65s that you built anyway will keep on going past them?
Yeah, hopefully I'm going to win either way, right, Andrew? But yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it's a question I think we've all talked about with all of the guys. Nick Bias and Coxie and everybody. That was one of the things way back. Will they last? And I think everyone's been really fortunate to have a Volvo 65, and those boats are quite an old design these days, and they were built well, of course, structurally well, designed well, and they're a bit of a bust these days, so they're quite strong and stable. But we had the Volvo 70s, and like any other boat, I think what do they say? To first you have to finish to win, and I think I think you can, in my opinion, you can break any boat. That's my opinion. If you push hard enough, you'll break any boat. So if you take an Amoka boat or an ocean race, the new ocean race boat around the world, I think, of course, you have to be careful, and of course, you need to finish each leg and climb the points and to win the race. But I do think you have to manage the boat. We
all remember talking about Volvo 70s in 2005-06 coming out of Vigo. The decimation to those new Volvo 70s, most of which ended up on a ship going down to Cape Town, if I remember correctly.
That would make you smile, wouldn't it, Andrew? But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And we've all, we're all part of that. We all learnt from the experiences there. We know exactly what went wrong and why. And I think, the whole concept of canting keel systems and the systems that are in most of those boats today, we all know them extremely well. So I think, I don't think that would happen again. But I think the optimization of all of the composite structures and all the systems on boards today, they're all pushed, and they're all pushed hard enough, and they're extremely light. So I do think you have to manage your boat to finish. But I think it's the same with any boat. Any boat.
And I know, Bruno, on a technological side, do you have any questions for Mark?
Actually, what was one comment when he was talking about thinking of building boats as airplanes, coming from an aerospace background and manufacturing. The idea I had before getting into a boat yard was basically like all guys were luthiers, like a lot of guys working on one part. And when I saw how they actually work, it's actually really close to how aerospace works. Lots of automation, lots of preparation before actually building parts. And I think that's the only way we can build those foils, and as Mark was saying, to make them last the whole race and not break a foil every leg or every 2 legs. So I think technology, it's the only way to go to build this high performance foils. And I think Persco is doing it pretty well.
Cool. And I have my last question. I can let Andrew sign off. My last question is, knowing everything we started this talking about like how if foils are the center of foiling week, and then the person who builds the most foils should be the best person to talk to this week. Looking into the future, I mean, what do you dream about do you like not dream about work, or if you do, what do you dream about with hydrofoiling, sailing or non-sailing in the future? Do you have some dreams that you think what the potential is? And I can picture this happening.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, everything's changing so fast. In actual fact, what you think about today is the envelope's that much wider, than what you did a few years ago. So right. It's kind of what you want to dream today. You need to throw the ball even further and keep dreaming. And I honestly think with the foiling, of course, we've built a lot of foils and everyone's getting really excited. But if you think about it, we're just scratching the surface here. It's only the last few years that everyone's been foiling, and we're really fortunate to be in the middle of it here at Persco Marine and have the opportunity and the privilege of working with so many cool people and cool designers to put out these products and hopefully keep everybody happy and keep them flying. That's our goal, is make everyone fly. And if you fly, you're happy. That's cool. But the future, I can see foils on super yachts. I can see foils on big power boats like super yachts, to make them more efficient, keep them more stable, more comfortable, so you don't spill your gin on the way out. There's so many different avenues that these foils could be used on today that we haven't started. We honestly haven't started.
That's awesome. And like what we were talking to just before to Ian Percy on the commercial applications, those efficiencies, saving money, reducing carbon, and all those aspects of it where we can use these ideas to be more efficient.
That's right. Yeah, it's huge. It's really huge. Yeah, and I think you just have to keep watching us, because what we're doing today is not what we're planning for tomorrow. What we're doing tomorrow is completely different again. So keep an eye out.
Cool. So Andrew, is your mind sufficiently blown now? Do you have?
No, super exciting, isn't it? But it's interesting that going back to considering where we are in Italy, we're not far from where the Phoenicians were wandering past, and when it came to their boat building skills, I think that you're applying today, Mark, what they were doing 2,000 years BC or whatever it was, because they were measuring twice and cutting once, and it sounds as though that's the same fundamental philosophy that Persco is taking to make sure you get it right for the buyer.
That is definitely the idea. Absolutely. We've got to keep it safe for everybody.
Cool. And I said that was the last question, but we're going to end on this. How about yourself? You're working a lot. What kind of sailing are you doing these days?
Not enough, to be honest with you.
You got to be doing something to keep fresh. Or what are you going to do when you do get to sail?
To be honest, I try to get involved with all the commissionings and things like that around here, but I haven't been sailing much at all lately. I've been too busy running marathons in the mountains and
Cool.
and enjoying what I can get out of here. But tomorrow, hopefully, I'll be down in Garda, and Andrew said he's going to take me for a spin on the Persco 69F.
Awesome.
For sure.
Cool. Well,
I've been doing a bit of coaching, I must admit.
no, I think you need a coach, Andrew.
I need a teacher. I don't need a coach.
On the wing tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll get you on the wing. So just wrapping things up, Mark, thank you so much. And thank you to Persco for all the support that they've given to Foiling Week, just with personnel and other support. I want to remind everyone, if you're watching online, always ask questions. We'll take them. Please share what we're doing on your platforms. We're trying to do that. And I just want to give everyone a heads up on tomorrow, the last day of the live broadcast for Foiling Week, or at least, for live broadcasts. We're starting 10 a.m. with the recreational foiling. Like, is it for absolutely everyone, not just wind-powered craft and for the oceans? We have an amazing group, really fun group. If Balls Muller isn't doing backflips in his races in wing, what's it called, Bruno? The wing ding, wing foil. Well, what's the event for tomorrow? The wing.
Oh, wing foil tour.
Wing foil tour.
Yeah, they're racing actually.
Yeah. So Balls Muller, the wing foil tour, he'll be on with us. Kainani Drexler will be on with us, the little wonderful girl from Maui with her father, Scott Drexler. And Annalise Lammertz from Holland will be chiming in. She's in wing foiling, kite foiling. She's a world champion in wake and kind of border cross type kite surfing. And we're going to have Robbie Nash tomorrow too, to kind of connect all the dots with us with his experience with wind sports and foiling. He's just had his hands in everything. So we're going to have an awesome day tomorrow. We're going to talk to Manny Frères about large boat foiling, like what Mark was talking about. So maybe Frères and Persico will have some projects together. We're going to be talking about kite racing foils, and we're going to be talking about some designers about a huge range of catamaran and other foiling craft designs that they're working on. So that's going to be a big day, big Saturday on Lake Garda. So Bruno Gentoli, Andrew Pindar, Mark, thank you. Mark Somerville, sorry, from Persco Marine. Thank you so much, guys, and tune in tomorrow.
Thanks so much, guys. Very good job. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, ciao. Thanks for all your work.
Tomorrow.